everyone. Thank you so much for coming back for another episode of Start the Conversation. Today, I have a lovely friend with me. Her name is Zoë Kim. How are you, Zoë?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm really excited to be talking to you.
Of course. And today, Zoë is going to tell us a little bit about her experience as being someone who's a part of the Asian American community and her experience with a lot of the discrimination and xenophobia that's been surrounding the COVID-19 pandemic.
So, I'm a Korean American actor, usually based in the New Jersey, New York area. I'm currently a graduating class at the Mason Gross School of the Arts at Rutgers University for my acting MFA. And yeah, I have one semester to go, so really close.
COVID has impacted everybody in all different types of ways. But for you, how has it impacted you socially?
Yeah, well, I think COVID impacted all of us socially, I'm sure to a certain degree. I think for me, what's been really unexpected, I suppose, like everything else that's going on right now, is that me and my classmates, we've been on top of each other 24/7 pretty much for the last 3 years straight. And then, COVID happened. And so it sort of halted our momentum as like a company or as a unit. And by the time that we are back together again as a full class, it would be almost 11 months since we've seen each other, work together, any of that. So that difference was obviously not unexpected, but also I'm curious to see how we'll be able to, pick it back up where we left off and, graduate, right? Yeah.
No. Have you had any negative experiences due to the stigma that's been spread about the Asian American community or Chinese Americans as being the sole spreader of the virus?
Absolutely. Luckily I haven't had to deal with any extreme physical or verbal confrontation or abuse as much as some of my other Asian American friends have so far that I've heard of and that I've been following. But like I definitely think that there was a shift in uh, public interaction and public spaces that was blatant to me right off the bat. For example, um, I started noticing immediately starting in March that people, if they saw me walking down the street, they would cross the street. Or I had a couple people cough at me pretty blatantly as I walked past. Or um, I've had a couple people follow me kind of down the street in a way that was uncomfortable, I suppose, kind of seeing where I was going. Or I've had a couple people who, coming out of the elevator would jump back and kind of like, cover their face and run away, things like that, and it's not, racism isn't new, right? Like we all know that it's been here, it's just been dormant. Well, not even necessarily, but it just hasn't had this opportunity to be as blatant and in your face as it has until now for the Asian American community. So it's not that I haven't experienced racism before, but I think that what I have noticed is that my public presence has clearly been causing some anxiety to other people in public.
That's a really, thank you first for sharing that. And no, that is, it's just awful. It's terrible. And then we've seen, especially in New York City, the rise in hate crimes has gone up since March due to this. And mind you, these are just the ones that are reported. So, there's been blatant racism, like you said, and then there are microaggressions on all different kinds of level that you've experienced. So first, thank you so much for sharing that. So how do you feel about Donald Trump referring to the virus as the Chinese virus? Or do you find that his words have a direct impact on those hate crimes that we mentioned and the microaggressions it is that you've experienced as well?
Yeah, I think that his choice to continuously use the word Chinese virus or Kung flu is extremely polarizing and stigmatizing and unnecessary, really. Kind of aside from the fact that what we know of or what we think of has come from China, the his choice of using the term Chinese virus to kind of polarize the people and the world, I think has been negative, and it sure hasn't helped. And I do believe that it's a trickle down effect from the leadership down. So the fact that he keeps kind of using that word, I think just has given a lot of people the legitimization and the justification to uh, let their racism fully fly in public. And kind of, because I do think it matters, right? Like if the leader of this country is being a certain way, I think it's only understandable and natural for everybody else to look to that leadership and think, well, if he's doing that, then I could too, perhaps, right? So
Right.
I definitely don't think it's good. I don't think it's helping. I think that it's a very good you know um, fuel to the race tension. I think it's a marketing and PR strategy. I think it's a lot of things other than really what is important.
No, and I completely agree with you. That was why I started this platform of Start the Conversation, so people that understand that your words truly matter and they have meaning. I always say it's those thoughts that turn into words. And when you let those words turn into actions, that's where we see these hate crimes. That's where you see these people jumping back when they see you and covering their mouth. And again, those microaggressions means just as much as those who do them on a physical level as well. And
Sure.
again, like you said, it's doing everything but solving the problem. It's doing everything but
Mhm.
saying, everyone, let's come together and let's really fight this virus. We're saying, let's fight this fake narrative. He's
Mhm.
just putting together this fake narrative that's just completely untrue and is hurting people more than it is helping them. Um,
Really counterintuitive, and
mhm.
it's counterproductive in all the ways, because we're as a nation, due to the leadership, looking to find somewhere to place the blame that's outside of us. And I don't really see how that's necessarily helpful, if at all,
Yeah, I agree
to
with
get
you
through this
100%.
pandemic as a nation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I completely agree with you. So, what do you think that we can do as a local community so that we can stop the spread of hatred towards Asian Americans and the discrimination during this time because of the
Mhm.
pandemic?
Yeah. I think that's really difficult. It's such a difficult thing to try to solve, and I've been thinking a lot about that recently. Not just with COVID-19, but with Black Lives Matter movement and everything, about how we can work on solidarity and how we can help to grow solidarity amongst the community members. And what are the ways that we could help each other to prevent the farther polarization of this country. And I think just hypervigilance is first thing. Being hypervigilant, being open to listening, and to um, just to be supportive, and not take it personally, when we talk about these things, and not argue just for the sake of argument of why it's happening, but really just focus on what matters. And what matters is the people. And that's what I think. I don't know if everybody else would agree, but I personally feel like at the end of the day, what matters is the people. Human lives matter. Black lives matter. Our lives as a community matter. So I think first thing and first, the first thing we could do as a community is just to be more hyper vigilant, to continue to educate ourselves, to be opened for solidarity, for building solidarity, and to continue correcting each other inside out. And what I mean by that is from the inner circle out, starting with those who are closest to us, to our families, to our community, then to the nation, right? I always think that change happens at the home first.
Right.
So having those conversations, I think, are really important. I think to not assume that everybody else would be on the same page is important, and to call in rather than calling out is important. um, yeah, I think the answer is solidarity, really.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great. And I'm happy to hear that as well. I agree with you that I think that is just what we need, is for us to start standing together as one rather than finding different ways to divide us. But at that same token, finding the ways that we are all polarized and we're all marginalized, and figuring out how can we come together as one, recognizing that, and then figuring out where we can come together. Yeah. So do you feel that local authorities, however, and government officials have been doing enough to stop hate crimes, or do you think that there's more that we can do to also to stop spreading that hate?
Yeah, so much of where we go from here is up to the leadership. And the first thing that the leadership could do, and the least that the leadership could do, and what they should do together as a unit, is to publicly denounce hate crimes, and to promote solidarity, and to promote the ending of polarization, and ending the efforts to pit minorities against each other. I think it needs to start from there, because words do matter, and I do think that public leadership and image and all of those things do matter. Even if not everyone feels it, I do think that it's sort of a ripple effect, right? So the first and foremost thing I hope to see from our leadership is to come together as one, all community leaders, and to publicly denounce and be very firm on their position on anti-racism. And I think if we don't have that, there's nowhere else to go from there. We can't even talk about policy change, or we can't talk about police reform. We can't talk about a lot of other bigger issues at hand if we don't come together and at least agree that we share the same values as Americans, and move forward from there, right?
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I think that's the biggest thing that we need to, I think this double pandemic that we're going through right now is learning how to denounce racism, and learning how to be anti-racist. And like you said, doing that from the inside all the way out. So thank you so much for speaking a little bit about this issue and giving us a lot about your own personal experiences as well. And thank you so much for stopping by, start the conversation today.
Thank you so much for stopping by, start the conversation. If you enjoyed watching this, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. If you have a story and are interested in being interviewed, send me an email at rlegrand126@gmail.com. You can also stay in contact with me by following me on Instagram at @rachelle and at Miss Atlantic Shores. I'll see you next time.